Well, hey kiddies, Retro Dad, coming back at you with another So Wrong collecting video. You know, Thanksgiving's upon us, but do you know what the real holiday is? The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. It's the day where retailers are no longer in the red, and they're finally in the black. Well, that's the way it used to be. Well, as a video game buyer and collector, you want to stay in the black too, right? Well, here's some alternatives to games that will help you stay in the black, coming right after this. If you're a collector like myself, you like to have physical copies. But not every collector wants to have real expensive physical copies of certain games. There are games that are worth hundreds of dollars, but you can get that game in a physical form for a fraction of the cost. And that's what we're going to discuss today, those games you can get for a fraction of the cost. One such game for the Super Nintendo is Chrono Trigger, one of the greatest RPGs of all time, according to some.
Chrono Trigger was released for the SNES in 1995 by Square. So let's everyone jump into your own epochs and travel to the year 2016. The physical cart goes for about $100 these days. Complete copies can reach upwards to $225 There are ways of acquiring Chrono Trigger legally in a physical form for far less than $20. Complete two, I might add. The first is getting it for the Nintendo DS. Chrono Trigger DS, or Chrono Trigger, now you can take this RPG on the go. And the other is?
But you can get the Final Fantasy Chronicles for as little as $20. And this not only has Chrono Trigger on it, which has cutscenes as well, it also has Final Fantasy II or Final Fantasy IV. I just beat Chrono Trigger just the other day, and it was a long game, but it was really enjoyable. Well, let's backtrack to the NES and talk about Donkey Kong Classics. Now, this has Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong, both on the same cart.
A loose copy of Donkey Kong for the NES goes for about $30. Complete in the box copies go for a whopping $300 plus. Its sequel, Donkey Kong Jr., also on the NES, goes for about $18 for a loose cart. CIB hovers around $145 give or take. Donkey Kong Classics is about $15 loose. Getting it complete in the box is only about $30, making it the same price as the loose copy of Donkey Kong. Two games for the price of one. DKC is a shelf saver and a money saver. To be honest, it is somewhat of an uncommon game. You might find a copy of Classics over that of Donkey Kong Jr. and possibly the original Donkey Kong. Still, I don't see very many of them in the wild. Although I tend to see several of the classics at retro conventions, unlike the original single releases. It's hit or miss, really.
Do you like Neo Geo, but don't have a cabinet, but you like Metal Slug? Well, you can get the Metal Slug Anthology on the Wii, PlayStation 2, or even on the PSP. This includes 7 awesome games. Well, do you have Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation 1?
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
If not, I recommend this.
Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles is a steal. Not only does it come with Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine, the first time it was released in North America, it comes with one of the best Castlevania games ever made. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A complete copy today will cost you a little under $60. It has gone up in price. Dracula X on the SNES, which Rondo of Blood is based on, is a rather expensive card to get. Plus, It isn't easy to find either. If you manage to get your hands on one of these in the near future, be prepared to spend about $150.
You can get both of those on this awesome collection for really cheap. I think I got it for $10 not too long ago. I haven't seen it more than 15. That's a big money saver. It'll definitely get you in the black.
You shall regret those words. We will meet again.
Do you love Splatterhouse? I do. And the great thing about getting Splatterhouse either on the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, you can unlock the original trilogy, which makes this an excellent deal because part 2 and 3 for the Sega Genesis are really expensive. Kirby's Adventure for the original NES is a classic game. It's a great game, in fact. But some on the Super Nintendo, like Dreamland 3, is really expensive. But I have an alternative for you. If you can find it, and it's not really cheap, maybe about $30, you can get the Kirby 20-year anniversary collection for the Wii. Not only does it include Kirby from the Game Boy and the NES, it includes the very expensive $90 to $120 Dreamland 3 cart on this. Physical, but on a single disc with multiple games. Great buy. And this is the collector's edition. It comes with the soundtrack. And what about that little blue bomber, Mega Man? Well, you can get the Mega Man Anniversary Collection or the Mega Man X Collection.
Mega Man X series on the SNES isn't cheap. Mega Man X alone is $30 loose. That isn't too bad for a price. Mega Man X2 on the other hand is $85 to $100. X3's price is laughable if it wasn't so sad. It's expensive and rare. Most likely, it is the most pricey game on this list. Now brace yourself. $230 on the high end. The rest of the X series, Mega Man X4 through X6, are all about $20 for a complete copy. So today, if you decided to buy all 6 of the X series games in their physical forms on the SNES or original PlayStation, it would cost you $415. Possibly less or perhaps a little more. Ouch. If you don't want to spend your hard-earned cash on expensive physical cards or simply can't afford to like most people, and you still want an authentic physical copy of some sort, I highly recommend the Mega Man X collection. You can still get a physical copy for the PlayStation 2 for under $15. Amazon has it on sale today for $12.88 new. The GameCube version is worth $60 for a used complete copy. The only reason it's worth more, it's because it's on Nintendo console. The Mega Man Anniversary Collection includes 8 games plus unlockable games as well.
Now, it's true the Anniversary Collection does have some different bonuses depending on what system you buy the game for.
Mega Man 1 on the NES can go between $70 to $80 loose. Mega Man 5 can go upwards of $100, sometimes over. Instead of spending $170, you could always get the Mega Man Anniversary Collection and get Mega Man 1 through 8
with 8 games on one disc and 7 games on another. You can't go wrong with the Anniversary Collection or the Mega Man X Collection on the PlayStation 2, original Xbox, or the GameCube. Are you a Sega Genesis collector but don't have enough room or don't want to spend the money on multiple carts? Well, I recommend getting the 6-pack for the Sega Genesis. It includes 6 games on one cart, including games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Columns, Streets of Rage, and Golden Axe, all on one cart. Now that's a value. Or you can get the Triple Score. It has Columns as well and Super Hang On. And a soccer game. Go soccer. You can't go wrong with the Capcom Classics, either Volume 1 or 2, or Reloaded or Remixed for the PSP.
Capcom Classics comes with over 40 titles between Volume 1 and Volume 2. A few highlights from the Volume 1 include Street Fighter II, the arcade fighting classic from the 90s, Final Fight, one of my favorite beat-em-ups, Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts, plus Capcom included Super Ghouls and Ghosts, originally on the Super Nintendo. Great addition to Volume 1. The game is challenging but a lot of fun. Plus, that's $20 right there. Oh, I can't forget to mention 1942 and 1943. I always preferred 1943 in the arcades over 1942. To me, 1943 feels updated and I like the power-ups. Other games include the 1985 vertical shooter Gunsmoke. The screen is a little on the tiny side, just like 1942 and 1943. That's because they're making the screen conversion from arcade to TV. Then there's Bionic Commando and more, making 22 in total. Whereas Volume 1 contained mostly common games you found in the 80s and 90s in arcades, the games selected for Volume 2 on the other hand seem to be a little on the obscure side. Some of the titles included are Black Tiger, a side-scrolling beat-em-up, the outstanding Captain Commando, another beat-em-up. Sticking with the motif of beat-ems, a game I really enjoy is Magic Sword. You get a key and you unlock imprisoned future allies. Once they are unlocked, they become your sidekick and fight with you. There are a lot of them, some right next to each other. This offers a lot of variety in gameplay. Magic Sword was also ported to the Super Nintendo. A physical cart usually only goes for about $20 today. My friends and I loved playing Street Fighter II at the local grocery store. I remember we had a conversation one day. Someone brought up, so has anyone played Street Fighter 1? Everyone was silent. In fact, it seemed like the whole world went silent. Only sound came from a lone cricket in the distance. No one that I knew of ever played Street Fighter, until it was ported on the Capcom Classics Volume 2, that is. I'm sure there's a real arcade cabinet floating out there somewhere. I have never seen it in person. If you love Street Fighter 2, then you're in for a surprise. Surprise! This is Street Fighter. Hard to believe Street Fighter 2 came from this. This game is a mess. The combat is botched, it's hard to do special moves, and you can't choose who you play. It's mostly button mashing to the extreme. You're just hoping you will land punches or kicks, or Hadouken, or Fireball in this game. It's nice to see the origins of the Street Fighter series, and I'm happy they included it. I wouldn't consider it a classic though. Like I said earlier, there are some ambiguous arcade titles in this series. Speaking of Street Fighter, they included another incarnation of Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. The amount of games on each disc make it worth every penny, especially if you can't find or buy each arcade game in its native form. Can you imagine that? It would be astronomical in cost and in space. For a used copy of Capcom Classics Volume 1 on the PlayStation 2, it would set you back $10. Volume 2 would cost you about $8 more. Getting the original Xbox versions cost more than the PS2 counterparts, with Volume 2 peaking at $35 for a complete copy. It seems to be rare on the Xbox original. Capcom Remix and Reloaded are very similar to Capcom Classics Volume 1 and 2. There are a few missing games though.
These talk about money savers. You can get these as low as $15, at least for now.
You win! Perfect!
I've talked about this game many times, but it's a great deal, especially for one game that is super expensive these days. The Capcom Classics Mini Mix. I got this for $5 complete. It includes Mighty Final Fight, a very expensive game.
Actual cart can go as high as $200. You can watch my review in a few to learn more if you're unfamiliar with the game.
Strider and Bionic Commando. That's a great deal for $5 to $10. That saves you like almost $200. Great deal. Whew. That was a lot of games. Now I know I didn't talk about them all, and ones I missed, let me know. Comment below ones that you recommended. Maybe I'll talk about them in another video. You do not want to go in the red being in this hobby. Stay in the black. And you can by getting alternatives to physical cards. Like the games I mentioned earlier can save your pocketbook and save you shelf space. And sometimes that's just as important as saving money. So thank you again for watching this video, and if you like what you watched, please subscribe, comment below, like if you could. Once again, thank you and have fun. Go game. See you later. Well, do you have a PSP and like puzzle games? Well, I recommend Puzzle World by Capcom. It has some great puzzle games, including Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. It's actually really cheap. I got this for $5 not too long ago, and it's a great game. Keeps you entertained for a while, especially that Turbo Fighter.